Die Hard. It's one of the best action series ever made. All three films are loaded with spectacle, humor, and one-liners everybody knows whether they've seen the movies or not.
Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker.
The two games I remember best are Die Hard Arcade, courtesy of Sega, and Die Hard Trilogy from Probe. I'll start with the latter. Initially, I thought it may be like Alien Trilogy, you know, a first-person shooter with stages modeled after locations in the films. Instead, they decided to make 3 games in one. That's what the box says, at least. Each game has its own playstyle. Die Hard is a third-person run-and-gun, while Die Harder is a rail shooter in the same vein as Virtua Cop. Vengeance is a driving game. All 3 games are available at the start, meaning you can play them in any order you wish, designating a save slot to each one.
NYPD! Hey, this isn't even my jurisdiction.
Die Hard has a simple objective. You just clear the level of bad guys, which is kind of funny. On the first stage, you've killed just as many bad guys as there are in the movie. There are hostages to save, but it's optional. Eventually, you'll get a bonus stage where you escort all of them to a heliport for rescue, while collecting weapons, body armor, and health in the process. Saving hostages from executions will grant you an extra life. Those you desperately need. McClane always has a Beretta 92F with unlimited ammo, though you can find more weapons, like the MP5 or Carl's distinctive Steyr AUG, just to name a few. The shitty part is that they don't last very long. You get 2 magazines. Once they're spent, it's back to the Beretta. As for secondary weapons, you have grenades, flashbangs, and smoke pucks. Those things actually come in handy when you have a shit ton of enemies clustered in a tight space. Way to level the playing field when all you have is the Beretta.
Thanks for the advice.
You can even use the environment to kill enemies, like these construction panels. It affects your score too, so it pays to be inventive. These levels are impressive. They look just as they do in the movie, like the model room and that stupid table McClane is forced to navigate from below. Anyway, once the stage is clear, an elevator carrying a bomb is sent to your location. You have 30 seconds to reach it before the fucker goes boom. Really, that's all there is to it. Kill bad guys, stop the bomb, and carry on. Every few stages, there's a boss, but they're nothing special. It's one guy surrounded by other bad guys, and you waste them all. Wow, what a challenge. The real challenge here lies with the player and their wealth of patience. Not to say Die Hard's boring, but it goes on for 20-some-odd levels with very little change in gameplay. It's enjoyable for half an hour, then I grow tired of the monotony and turn it off. Then again, I may be inclined to go on if it weren't for the inconsistent frame rate. When there's more than a few enemies on screen at once, blasting barriers or panes of glass, the frame rate dips hard. It can affect your response time when shooting. Normally, I can fire the Beretta like a frickin' machine gun, I'm that fast. In situations like this, it kinda blows. Collision, on the other hand, sucks. Many stages are littered with narrow hallways, doorways, tables, crates, and whatever the fuck else. McClane will cling to or get stuck in any one of these obstacles, leaving you open to attack. It's just bullshit. Otherwise, Die Hard looks and sounds decent for the time. The gore is over the top, and it's just as entertaining as these voice samples.
I've got a machine gun. Bye-bye, bad guy.
Jesus Christ. All in all, Die Hard's okay. Flawed, but fun. How about Die Harder? It's bloody ridiculous. Like, literally, just look at this. More plasma is spilt here than in Resident Evil. That, and you can destroy everything. I mean everything. Cars, helicopters, vending machines, monitors, walls, crates, fucking brain cells. I'm thoroughly amazed by the level of detail found in all this chaos. God, and the explosions. Die Harder can cure Michael Bay's impotence. There's so much shit blowing up. This is pure nitro Viagra. Anyway, it's a basic rail shooter in terms of gameplay. Shoot terrorists, spare civilians, collect power-ups, etc. There's not much else to say other than it suffers from a horrendous frame rate that is both choppy and erratic. It may not look too bad now, but when you're in the moment, it gives me an astounding headache. I can't say the same for the PlayStation version. It runs smoothly with very little lag. Transparencies are used for windows, explosions, rays of light, and shadows. Yeah, if you look closely, characters actually cast shadows here, unlike the Saturn version. This is definitely one of those instances where PlayStation beats Saturn. Die Hard Trilogy may have been a multi-platform release, though it was clearly designed for PlayStation first and foremost. If Probe had spent more time on Saturn, it may have fared better. Not that it matters now, right? Okay, on with the show. The controls don't help much. Die Harder is best played with the Sega Stunner. Of course, the Stunner doesn't work with this kind of television, so I'm stuck with the D-pad. It goes without saying that using a controller for a light gun game sucks harder than your mom after a few Cosmos. The cursor's either too slow or too fast. There's no middle ground. Because of this, I rarely ever make it past the first level. The only reason you're seeing this much is because I'm cheating.
Give me the goddamn code.
Yeah, if you punch in CABBY twice during this copyright screen, it unlocks a cheat option whenever you pause a game. To be fair, if you save as soon as you make it to a level, your life will be replenished whenever you load. I'm sorry, but that's way more effort than I care to put forth. Die Harder can be fun, though it's difficult to look at, and I hate using a D-pad in place of a light gun. Alright, now we have Die Hard with a Vengeance. From what I've read, this was supposed to be the whole game. Probe had developed this segment first, and were all set to release it as a standalone game. I guess that makes sense since Vengeance was the latest film. Still, Fox felt it needed a greater connection to the franchise, so Probe went back to work, added 2 more games, and voila! Like the movie, it's a deadly race against time. Oh, fuck me, Jesus. As John and Zeus try to stop the villainous Simon from setting off bomb after bomb in New York City. You ride around in a cab, some luxury car, and a squad car. Not that it matters much with the controls, but I'll get to that in a moment. There are power-ups such as turbo, time, points, and launch, which is kinda cool. Believe it or not, this is how you kill Simon in the end. You gotta launch your vehicle into the air in order to hit Simon's chopper. It's a ridiculous concept, but it's no more ludicrous than jumping off a bridge and surviving, or being shot like a fucking rocket out an aqueduct. You would think that since Probe had intended to release this game all by its lonesome, it would be the best of the bunch, right? Well, if the answer is yes, then you're wrong. I don't mean to be a twat, because it can be entertaining, but the control cripples it. If you're using the D-pad, don't even bother. Steering's so stiff it may as well be wearing a toe tag. Making a tight turn is nearly impossible here. The shoulder buttons should aid you in that department, but they're so twitchy you can spin out and crash, or somehow manage a complete 180. This was a nightmare, let me tell you. The 3D analog controller is a big improvement, handling's way better, though the shoulder buttons still respond poorly for whatever reason. That and, like Die Hard, collision is a problem. Ugh. On top of all that shit, there's the unforgiving time limit. We all know how much I love time limits. Admittedly, if the controls had been refined, it may have been more bearable. Alas, no such luck. The best thing about Vengeance is the humor. If you switch to first-person view while running people down, blood sprays across the windshield, RoboCop style. As if it weren't funny enough.
Sorry, pal.
Sorry, yeah, that makes it all better. Die Hard with a Vengeance has its moments, though there aren't enough of them to make me endure the low points. Is that so hard to understand?
I understand that you're a fucking wacko that likes to play kids games. That's what I understand.
Die Hard Trilogy is very hit and miss. The first game's good enough to warrant a purchase, I think. Die Hard Trilogy isn't one of those hard-to-find second mortgage Saturn titles, so I wouldn't toss it aside completely. Some players may be able to work through the poor controls and dodgy frame rate, but I can't. I need something a bit more polished.